Oof, okay. Our first speaker is doing her second project from the Competent Communicator Manual. It is Organize Your Speech. The objectives of her speech are to select an appropriate outline which allows listeners to easily follow and understand her speech, make her message clear with the supporting material directly contributing to that message, use appropriate transitions when moving from one idea to the other, create a strong opening and conclusion. I didn't get the title of your speech.
Do you want it now?
Yeah.
Stress-free in 1, 2, 3.
Stress-free in 1, 2, 3. The time of her speech is 5 to 7 minutes. Please welcome Carla Webb.
Do you want more happiness in your life? Or are you looking for ways to reduce stress? Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests. I'm going to give you 3 of the top ways to reduce stress in your life. Now I want to start by explaining the definition of stress. There's many out there, but my favorite is this. It is the body's response or reaction to a change that requires a physical, mental, or emotional adjustment or response. So what that means to me is that when we experience stress, it is manifested in our bodies. So if we don't have happiness, then it shows in our bodies in the form of disease and that kind of thing. So what happens when we experience stress is there's a very complicated series of chemical reactions that occur in our body, which was great at the time when we were running away from woolly mammoths and we needed to prepare for the flight or fright or freeze response. And what ends up happening today is that we end up thinking too much about the past and worrying about the future, so we end up in a state of stress way too much. So how do we fix that? Well, the first way is exercise. Exercise is proven to be one of the best ways to combat stress. And I know a lot of people associate pain and suffering with working out, you know, dredging up hills with 50 pounds of packs for 2 hours and one way and uphill the same way, coming back. But there's really, in this day and age, a lot of really fun things that we can do to exercise. And people in the West Coast, I think, are relatively in good shape. And you can find things like yoga and cardio core boot camp, and there's even new fusion fitness routines that are emerging, like belly fit, which I happen to teach here at Walnut Grove. So basically the bottom line is exercise. There's something for everybody. And I recently spoke with my naturopath who is doing some upgrading with his certification, and he said by far, above anything else, exercise is the best way to deal with anxiety and depression, some of the major things that are affecting people in our society. So the second thing that will help us reduce stress is eating properly. And I know most people realize that fruits and vegetables and not junk food is a great thing, but I want to go a little bit deeper than that. I know in our society we typically miss meals or replace it with energy drinks or end up going fast food places. So about 5 or 6 years ago I came across a book called The Zone by Dr. Barry Sears, and he did research with diabetics, and what his drive was to create a diet or a plan of eating for diabetics that would keep their insulin level constant. So he came up with this program, and he started with his group of diabetic people, and guess what? They had increased energy levels, constant insulin levels was the contributing factor, as well as losing weight. And so some of the things that he ends up suggesting is, 1, eating fat does not make us fat, which is a common misconception. 2, when we heard of the old days of carb loading before doing a triathlon or doing a marathon of some sort, doing high impact exercise all at once, we'd end up eating bread and pasta and loading. And what that does actually is it spikes the insulin levels so that it's not constant. And it ends up us feeling really muzzy and discombobulated, and so we're really doing a disservice by eating those types of foods. So those are called high density carbohydrates. So the other kind of carbohydrates are fruits and vegetables. Those are awesome. So he suggests at every meal having those kind of carbohydrates and protein. So that's the combination. And he says basically the protein should be as big as what would fit in your hand. He also talks about eating more often. So 5 meals a day, 3 major ones, 2 little snacks, perfect. And the other thing that I just want to add in my own thing is that I've been recently taking in organic food. There's a local Ladybug Organics that delivers, yay. And so that's a really great thing to reduce the amount of chemicals that we have in our body. So the third way to reduce stress is rest. And another book that I came across more recently is called The Powerful Engagement. And he really talks about we are set up so that we can endure a certain amount of stress in our lives, but we have to balance that with rest time. And we typically don't do that. I know I have a hard time doing that. And he uses a great example of an athlete, Ivan Lendl, who was a tennis pro. And he wasn't great at his sport in the sense that he was talented like John McEnroe. And they began to study what was so consistent about his performance. And what he did was he would, they had to capture it on video, and he would turn in between serves and take a mini break and re-engage in the game. And that set him above people like John McEnroe, who, if you remember, would kind of fly off the cuff and have angry outbursts. So his energy is being just misused, really, and he can't get back to focus to the game. So we've had 3 ways to reduce stress: exercise, eating right, and rest. So if the rest is 10 minutes of quiet time when you're working 90 minutes, that's perfect. So if you believe that you can improve your happiness, reduce your stress by any one of these ways, I would invite you to, over the next week, commit to something that will help in one of those areas. And I'd love to hear the emails and any response that you have back. So basically, I'll leave you with this, is that your body is a reflection of your overall well-being.